The Gauteng Education Department has blamed municipalities for the delays in building and refurbishing schools in the province. Briefing the media on the outcomes of the Grade 1 and 8 online applications, Education MEC Matome Chiloane admitted that Gauteng schools have capacity challenges and will rely on mobile classrooms and satellite schools to alleviate the pressure. For more on this, we're now joined by MEC Matome Chiloane. MEC, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. How severe is the capacity backlog and capacity deficiency in Gauteng?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. Look, the severity is informed by the system growth. But so far, every year we've been able to ensure that we are able to create space for these large numbers that are continuing to come into our province. I mean, for instance, this year we had over 130,000 new learners who migrated into our province. And if you translate that into a school of 1,000 learners, or let's say 2,000, you'd effectively need around 60 brand new schools. So you can see the need that's been created by this growth that we've been receiving in our system. So it's quite severe, but we've been managing it. But the truth of the matter is that obviously new infrastructure is necessary to push back the growth.
Yeah. How many schools are in the pipeline to be built?
We've got quite a number. Now we're sitting at around, let me say around 70 brand new schools that are in the pipeline currently. And obviously they are at different stages of development. But we're going to start seeing more coming. I mean, for instance, in the next beginning of the academic year, in the first month of January, we're looking to get around 4 schools. And then by the end of term, we'll have around another 6 or 7. So, and it will continue that.
Your financial year ends at the end of June. So let's project until the end of June. How many new schools will be built by then?
For us, the financial year ends at the end of March.
Sorry, say that again, MEC. Sorry, your line just cut there for a second.
Yeah, there's people, I'm hearing people speak, that's why. Okay, our financial year is end of March. Yes, now, I'm working around terms of the academic year. Term and fourth term. So when I'm saying term, which is around March, we should have another 4 or 5 schools coming in. And then at a second term, also quite a number of schools. By the end of the year, we're looking to get around 12 to 13 or 15 schools. Let me just say, give or take around there.
Okay. Importantly, mobile classrooms and satellite facilities are going to be introduced as I guess, an interim measure while the infrastructure backlog is being dealt with. How much is being spent on mobile classrooms, and how many mobile classrooms do you effectively have to acquire, rent, and or buy to be able to cover the shortfall in the medium term?
We don't rent, we buy mobile schools. And what happens with mobile schools, prices are not fixed, they're negotiated because we're not the only province that is in need of mobiles. So what we do, how we procure, we negotiate with the service providers and we drop the prices. And I can tell you, Gauteng is one, we are the province that actually gets charged the less as opposed to other provinces because most of the manufacturers are in this province. So that meaning that they'll pay less for transport, for instance, as opposed to a school that is quite far in the country. But secondly, in terms of the numbers are always informed by the number of learners because we need to know if we say now we're working with around 30,000 or 40,000 new learners. Now the mobile class we calculate as to one mobile must take around 40 learners, and that's the number that we produce. But it's not only mobile classrooms, there's the self-built. There are classrooms that are currently being built and about to be concluded or are concluded to create space. So the number will vary. There is no fixed number.
How many classroom, or let's call it seats, do you have for new grade 1 learners and new grade 8 learners across the province? And how many applications do you have for next year?
We received 358,000 applications for both grade 1 and grade 8. And then out of that, the capacity is around 405,000. But this capacity, obviously, you can say that there's not enough space for everybody. But it's around where are the applications. People have moved out of the periphery of our province, for instance, in the West Rand. They've moved into the urban center, which is Joburg, Ekurhuleni, and Tshwane. And that's where we've got a large number of people who are seeking spaces for them. So that's why we then have capacity challenge for spaces. So that's where we have a problem. But obviously, with this mitigation strategy we put in place, we're able to make sure that the next year learners are able to get space and more importantly, keep in line with the ratio of educator and learner ratio. And that's what we work around.
Historically, at least over the last 3-4 years, part of the problem in Gauteng is the placement calculus. And a lot of parents are bemoaning where their children are being placed. And they often argue that it's far from their places of residence and or their places of work. And it's quite an inconvenience, and that they would prefer to be at a specific school rather than the one that they've been placed in. I would imagine that makes the resource management a little bit more difficult. But are there ways of accommodating parents who truly are being inconvenienced in ways that might not bode well for the learning experience of their children?
Obviously, that's why when we do the placement, we use the home feeder zone as a first criteria, so that we make it convenient for the parent, that they get a school within their own feeder zone, so that they don't have a huge cost on transportation. That's number one. But also number two, should they not be able to get spaces, we also look at spaces that are close to the home feeder zone, schools that are close to home feeder zone. So you might find that the home feeder zone, and it's quite complex, this thing of home feeder zone. You might assume that you are next to a school and that school should be your home feeder zone. And it will not be, because the direction of its feeder zone will be on the other side of your property. So when we transfer, we also look at those aspects, how far the nearest schools are to you. But the intervention that we do, in some instances, is we provide scholar transport for new, especially informal settlements that come up that tend to sprawl up anywhere in our province. We do try to intervene for our learners in those particular communities. But more than anything, we really push and ensure that where we transfer and place the learners is as close to home as possible.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. MEC, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. As the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Matome Chiloane.